You are now tuned into the sounds of Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
Tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that is on all the time, anytime. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Nathan Snell.
And as always, thank you, Mr. Anthony Handy, for that wonderful introduction. Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host, Nathan Snell of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. This is episode 424. And this episode, it's a very special one for me. But before we get into that, there's a few things I want to say up front. There's a couple things that have happened. The Ravens and the Commanders are on bye weeks respectfully. We have to recap Maryland women's basketball and the men's at some point this week. And Maryland football is officially over. So be on the lookout for those videos. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe for our future content for the podcast. I do appreciate the support you're giving me and this channel. But ladies and gentlemen, as you've seen the title of this video, this is a full circle moment for me. I'm still kind of awestruck that this is a great opportunity, and this is what I'm definitely going to cherish for a while. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to give a warm welcome to the University of Maryland women's basketball head coach, Brenda Frese.
Oh, well, thank you, Nathan. What an honor, and appreciate the intro.
Thank you. Coach Frese, I think arguably one of the best coaches, future Hall of Famer. For me, watching Coach Frese from as a kid to now, getting the ability to ask questions in the press room and now interviewing, this is definitely a full circle moment. So welcome to the podcast, Coach.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Coach, you've been with Maryland since 2002, in just the consistency you've brought to not only Maryland, but Maryland basketball. What does, that mean for you?
It really means a lot. I always kind of say that cliche, the quote, it's harder to stay on top than it is to get to the top. And I think, for me, it is, I'm very grateful that, we have been able to sustain, just a top level program year in and year out, to be a top 10 program and show that consistency is really, really important. And, I credit our staff and our players with all the hard work behind the scenes, but, being able to maintain your culture at this high level of a consistency factor, especially given how much the game has changed, has been extremely important.
Now, you being from Cedar Rapids, Iowa legend yourself, just putting Iowa on the map from not only you as a former basketball player, but now as a coach, what does that mean for you?
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but I think there's been a lot of players from Iowa that have put that state on the map. And I think it speaks to the rich history of the game. There are so many talented players in the state of Iowa that have gone on to do elite level things, whether that be coaching, continuing to keep playing, highly successful careers. I think what is really molded around, kind of that Midwest and the state of Iowa is that blue collar work ethic. And I think when you grow up in a city like Cedar Rapids, it's really, it's really kind of shown to you every single day through, just that hardworking mentality that you need to have to be successful, as well as a relationship type of piece with a family environment surrounded around it.
Now, obviously, a lot of people don't know this, but where did your passion? I apologize for that in the background.
Yeah, okay.
You started at Kent State as an assistant and Ball State. Where did your the wanting to become a coach? When did that come? Where did that process take place?
Well, I think it really started when I was in high school. I had an unbelievable mentor in my high school coach, Paul James. And I really felt like, through him that I wanted to continue on and be a high school coach and be able to impact the game that way in coaching. But then really when I got to college at the University of Arizona and ended up having an injury that was kind of unforeseen is really when I kind of started looking at the lens of collegiate coaching. And it was really at that time that I thought, wow, I think I can do this, kind of at a higher level. I wanted to do it in college, had no idea what that meant and what it was going to entail. And here we are 35 plus years later. But, I was really fortunate through adversity. And that's usually what does take place is through an injury, is to really open my eyes open to a higher level that I could go into coaching.
I misspoke. You were actually an assistant for Kent in Iowa State, respectfully. You were head coach for Ball State. My apologies.
Okay.
When you became the head coach for Maryland, what was that like for you? What was it about Maryland that said, yeah, I'm taking that job?
Debbie Yao, the athletic director at that time, and her vision. I think it's pretty ironic how I ended up here, because I remember recruiting on the East Coast and getting lost around the Beltway and sharing with someone that you couldn't pay me $1 million to ever go live on the East Coast or in Maryland. And here we are 23 plus years later, and full circle moment. But it really was the vision of Debbie Yao. When she came after me, I was named AP Coach of the Year at the University of Minnesota. And she took me into Xfinity. It was just being built. It was still a shell of itself. The building hadn't even been completely finished. And I just could see it. I understood her vision. I believed that this was another level and another step in my coaching career where you could win a national championship, you could get to multiple Final Fours, and you could have a program that competed year in and year out at a national level. I'm a really competitive person and player. So she hit all those heartstrings when I always laugh when she recruited me to come to Maryland. She did a phenomenal job. So, I've always been one of those players that, when a door opens, you really have to evaluate it. And up to that point, I had, made 3 moves in 4 years when I came to Maryland, but every single move was the right move. And just now that I look back and to finally have been settled to, be at a program for 23 years. But I also remember, I was in my 30s. I remember when I accepted the job from Debbie Yao that I was just hoping I could get a contract extension, that I had to see if I was good enough. I didn't want to get fired and was unsure of myself. I believed in myself, but was unsure of that next level, how good I would be and coaching in the ACC. But I guess I must have done something right to be here, year 23 now at Maryland.
You now being the third tenured head coach behind the great Coach McKnight and Coach Weller. Just what does it mean to be in the books with those ladies, respectfully?
It's an honor. I remember coming in here and with Chris Weller, she had been here 26 years. And I just remember thinking, like, who could ever, be a coach for 26 years at one program? And here we are 23 years in. So again, just seeing, just those two, set the stage. And Dottie McKnight and Coach Weller still reach out all the time. I get emails from Dottie on a regular. She's still watching games. Coach Weller and herself and Dottie come to the games and are really, really supportive. So it really is. I mean, they really laid the foundation. They did things, stories they've shared, taking van rides and eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for pregame meals. I mean, they've shared those back, what that was like. And here we are because of what those two women have done and what they did for our game, for us now to be taking charter flights and to be on national television. And, those that have come before us is really, really important to recognize the history and your past.
When you took the job in 02, we won our first national championship in 06. That 4-year process, what was that like in terms of, okay, I'm coming into a program, this is kind of like, and I'm going to try to build it the way I see. What was that process like?
Well, I should say youthful bliss, because I really had no idea like what that was going to look like. I started by working on the heels of the men's national championship, to get on the phone after our men's team had just won it, to be walking in April on the heels of their championship was huge. That allowed us to be able to get on the phone and have that name recognition. I spent a ton of time recruiting in that first season because I knew it was kind of a roster that I had inherited that wasn't really going to be able to move the needle from a playing in. I knew from a culture in we could, but being able to bring my entire staff from the University of Minnesota with me accelerated that process, because they could be running practices while, as the head coach, I was out. Really spent a lot of time recruiting to be able to bring in the roster that we needed to have. And I don't think anyone could have dreamt it really was accelerated when you look at winning a national championship in 4 years. That just doesn't happen when you're doing an overhaul and a completely rebuild. But again, I credit the staff. I credit the trust that these student athletes and families had in our vision to understand that we were taking over, a team that had a losing record, to go recruit top 25 recruits and believe in us that we were going to turn this program around. And again, when you look at Crystal Langhorne and Laura Harper, who were a part of that championship team, they had offers on the table from UConn and Tennessee and turned them down to come to Maryland. I think it speaks everything about them. When young people don't take the easy path, they take the harder path. It tells you the confidence and belief that they have in themselves to be able to help turn a program around. And those two had it. And then you add, in our region, to be able to get Marissa Coleman to stay home and Christy Tolliver to say yes. So there were a lot of important pieces along the way that had to line up. And for us, it did. And that's where you see the result.
I do actually have a question. Speaking on that championship, when what was it true that when we were going into halftime in that game, you went into the locker room and you were like, did you hear like they're celebrating? Like, did they really? Is that true?
Yeah, it was a true story. I don't remember if they were actually celebrating. I mean, my quote is true. Sometimes, I'll have to say things to motivate, but I'm sure it probably was that. It did. It fired up our group. They came out really, really inspired. It was a team that was extremely confident in themselves. That when that game did go into overtime, they had already been 5-0 in overtime that season. So they just knew that it was, their championship to go take. So highly, highly motivated team.
When you see coaching from when, you started till now, what's some positives and negatives of it?
Definitely the positives. I mean, you look at these arenas now; they're full. They're fans are coming out, to each and every team and supporting their teams. The amount of access that you have, that you can pull up a game on any kind of stream to be able to see from near or far away, the television exposure, the media exposure. huge. It also then, that's the negative, right? Is all that attention, I see it wear on our student athletes at times where these expectations get built. A lot of people that have voices as well that are in their ears. A lot of people have opinions, and we forget that these are 18 to 23-year-olds that are trying to manage, being a student, being an athlete, and developing still. Those are formative years. So I think that can be really difficult when you're feeling that kind of pressure at such a young point in your career. We've always, we've now had to adjust as coaches with the transfer portal. You've seen that we've adjusted really well, but like if you asked me, I loved when I could have my 4-year, process and high school kids that I could go after and really develop relationships with. It's changed from that regard. And, that's been hard, but at the same point, I think we've navigated it as a staff really well. We've adapted. There's also been really some positive things. We've had a lot of kids that have come in here in the transfer portal that have had unfortunate situations, and good for them that they get to come to a program where they find their love back for the game and their passion. And that's what I love, that we get to bring that back. I would hate for a player to end their career and not have that joy and that passion that they deserve to have when they've played it their whole life.
You speak on that. I still think one of my favorite basketball seasons so far as a fan was not only when we moved into the Big Ten, but it was when we got to the Elite Eight about a couple years ago. We lost South Carolina. I still think that's one of my favorite teams because number one, obviously, the transfers and all that, and then all the social media talk and all that other stuff. But I think nobody really knew what to expect of that team, and to get to the Elite Eight was like playing with fool's gold. So I just that's one of my favorite teams. I think for many years, that definitely would definitely talked about for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we were led that year with Diamond Miller and Abby Myers, and every kid kind of really fit their role. It took a while to kind of get that mesh and to mold them together. And Diamond was kind of up and down with injuries that season, but it all came together. And I agree, it's a journey and it's a process. And, it is really, really cool to be able to see when it unfolds and develops that way.
Now, not only did we were in the Big Ten, but we were also in the ACC. Just how did you prepare for that move? We were in the ACC for so long, and then now here we are in the Big Ten. That transition into a different conference. How did you feel about that?
Well, I think initially, like anyone, you were surprised, you were shocked, you never kind of anticipated it. And then once you wrapped your mind around it, you knew okay, here we go. It changed. It makes you uncomfortable, but there's a tremendous amount of growth. I think we adapted really well. We went undefeated in conference play and then won the Big Ten tournament. So we rattled off we went 18-0, I think. So I think we adapted really well. I thought for me, it was an interesting time because I kind of likened it to a point in my career, almost like making a coaching change without making a move. And so when you were having to learn all these new rosters and coaching styles, when you went into Big Ten play, it was kind of invigorating. I had to really tune in, where it's now, unless you have a coaching change in conference, what teams run and what their out of bounds look like, and their plays a lot from year to year. It's just different personnel. So that does change up now, though, with the transfer portal. That's made it a lot more interesting, but it does. It keeps you sharp on your toes. And I've always been a believer. You don't want to do things the same way year in and year out. And you need to always continue to be growing as a player, as a person, and as a coach.
Speaking on the Big Ten, obviously, this is the first season where we've seen some teams, the UCLA, USC, now Oregon, now part of the Big Ten. Just how do you, when you look at that, that's a lot of, number one, the traveling, obviously, for them, because I know USC is coming to College Park next year in January. So that's a lot of traveling, the scheduling, like that's like, how do you, as a coach, how do you, one, find a balance with the schedule, but also two, making sure like, okay, like knowing the strengths and weaknesses and how to adjust to that for a Big Ten play and even non-conference play.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to watch it all unfold for the first time this year. I think for a lot of us, we feel fortunate that we're only having to make one swing for 5 days to go over and play two teams on the West Coast. For your West Coast teams, those four teams, and they're really, really talented, but they're going to be coming back and forth in, 2 to 3 hour time zones on a regular for about 8 weeks. And so it is, I think you're going to see some interesting scores you might not expect. I mean, this is my guess. We'll see how it unfolds. But when you're working through those kind of time zones and changes, and you're not even factoring in weather delays, mechanical delays on your flights, even though we're fortunate enough to charter, you still have that go on all through the season. So, I do. I think it's going to be interesting to kind of see how it unfolds. But again, this is our new normal. These are the changes, like you talked about, that we're getting a lot more money. We're getting a lot more exposure because of the conference. Our conference in the Big Ten is the best conference in the country. You see it. We have 9 teams ranked in the top 25, 2 more teams that have been receiving votes. And so I think I saw somewhere where 7 of those 9 ranked teams are going to be coming into Xfinity. So you're going to just see these battles from January all the way through until we get to March, just tremendous battles where every game is going to matter because you only play them once. And so it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm not afraid of any of those teams. We did all right. The comeback against Purdue Saturday. We're going to be just fine. We'll be ready for them.
We'll be ready.
Speaking of, earlier you mentioned Crystal Langhorne, Lauren Harper, Corsi Tolliver. When you see players like that, Alyssa Thomas, Brenna Jones, Diamond Miller, those that have now been and now currently in the W, for you, how does that make you feel as a coach, knowing that you were their coach and like, wow, like they're in the league now?
I'm extremely proud. I think when you watch those players come in and you've been able to be a part of their development and watch their careers unfold, and they come in to Maryland specifically to not only win championships and help the program here, but then that next level of dreams to continue on playing professionally. And so I know for me this year, when I went over to the Olympics and got to see Alyssa, my first Olympian to play, it was just an incredible moment. I can't even describe to you. Like, it's almost like, when I had the birth of my sons, you're just, it's a moment that, how hard Alyssa Thomas has worked and sacrificed and what she meant to our program. And then just to be selected as one of the 10 best players in the world, playing on this national stage to go win a gold medal. And so I think that's the piece that is really, really special, why we do this to watch. I love going up to draft day with our players and, seeing, Diamond Miller and, even Abby Myers, go in the first round and seeing them live out their dreams, because we all know how much work goes on behind the scenes. And a lot of these guys have started at, the age of 8, 9, or 10. That's what I say to people is I may have been coaching 35 plus years, but I also started playing basketball when I was about 9 or 10 years old. So I've been in this game for a really long time, being able to work. And that's what our student athletes do. So really proud moment.
This season, we're 10-0. What are you liking so far this season?
I really like the competitiveness of this group. Like you said, when we were down at Purdue, and it wasn't one of our finer starts to conference play or one that I envisioned, but some of it made sense. We were without our starting point guard all week. And when you kind of lose that that starting QB for you, that point guard position, that also impacts your team from a practice end going in. But what I love is I knew that they were going to be fine. I was very calm at halftime. Most people think I gave an animated halftime speech, but it wasn't necessary. I knew they just needed to settle in. And, this group is really, really competitive. They want to do the right thing. They want to play the right way. I think their chemistry is really building with the unselfishness that they need to play with, sharing the basketball. They're trying to make the right play. And the rest of it is just, a lot of new players that we're trying to get on the same page from both an offensive end as well as a defensive end.
I want to get you off here on a high note. Give me your all-time starting five Maryland Terrapins.
Ooh, that's really hard. You're putting me on the spot here. Well, I'll start with the point guard. It would be Christy Tolliver. On the wings, see, you're having, I've got swirling through my brain. I have Marissa Coleman, Diamond Miller, Crystal Langhorne, Laura Harper, and Alyssa Thomas, and Christy Tolliver. So that's six, and I can only start five. So
we can include a six man. That's okay.
Oh wait, and I got Brianna Jones. See, now there's seven. Now as I get thinking, so now I got seven starters. That would be too hard to choose from with those seven. I've got to say, like they've kind of have come in and kind of separated themselves, and I'm probably still missing some more. I will say this: I'm a really lucky coach because I've gotten to coach so many incredible players year in and year out that have not only impacted this program, they've impacted me.
I like to hear that. Two more. So the holidays are approaching. What is the most stressful part, decorating or holiday shopping?
For me, decorating, because my husband does all the holiday shopping, so he takes that stress off my hands.
And then lastly, Coach, what is your why?
My why is people. It's relationships. That's why I do what I do. That's why I'm in the profession, is just, for others. I love to be able to kind of help make that impactful difference, especially I get to be in a career with student athletes and that are in their college formative years. So they're really my why. My twins are my why. My family's my why. So, just, being able to, I feel like I'm really lucky because I get to have it on both ends, right? I get to have it on the home front as well as, being able to come in with our team and our program. So it definitely defines who I am.
I like that. Our next game, correct me if I'm wrong, is on the 19th. That's Wayman Mary.
Yeah, our field trip game, and close to a sellout. So put in the earplugs and get ready for a lot of passionate little kids that are going to be coming in.
How do you manage that? From we played Saturday, now you have a game on the 19th. That's like a lull for some in terms of basketball.
It really is. And, for us, we love it as coaches because we get to really correct. We're doing a lot of film and teaching and trying to improve in the areas that we need to get better at. But it's finals week. So, we kind of do these mini scrimmages. We have a phenomenal group of scout guys that pour into our program. So we don't really feel like we're missing a beat from a game end because we're able to add those kind of scrimmages into our team that really, helps make us sharp.
I love it. Well, Coach Frese, I appreciate you. Thank you for taking some of the time out of your day. I know you got to get ready for practice with the girls. Great win Saturday. For me personally, I just, for the record, I did not break anything. I was calm. I was cool. I was collected. I knew we were going to win the game.
There you go.
Again, and you said it at the beginning, media of the season for media. It's this team, we're still learning, growing. We're 10 games this season. It's early. It's a lot of basketball, and we'll be fine. So I'm trusting the process for sure.
Absolutely. Got to.
Yeah. So I will see you on the 19th for Wayman Mary.
All right. Thank you so much, Nathan.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate you.
Take care.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude this episode of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. Please like, comment, and subscribe for all future content. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you, producers, for the wonderful birthday message. I'm going to get Anthony for that. But like, comment, and subscribe for all future content. I will see you on the flip side. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe out there. Peace. Stay up.
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
And I want to thank you. All I want to do is say thank you.